very, very quiet because we've got some little voices. So if I can have everyone very quiet, that would be great. Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to Papa's 80th birthday party. We are very happy to be here to celebrate our Papa's 80th birthday. My name is Geordie. This is my sister Shoshy and my cousin Mabel. We think we have the best Papa in the whole wide world, and we want to tell you why. Papa's football team is Kelson. We love when he reads us stories, and we love going for sleepovers at Nana and Papa's house.
There's heaps more.
One Papa is wonderful because we have dinner together. I love when Papa gives me kisses and hugs. He makes this one.
A bit louder.
Press what?
Sam, and we'll do a clap at the end because there's a bit more to go.
I love when Papa makes us funny noises. I love when Papa reads me stories. I like when Papa giggles his eyes. I love when Papa can make it good cover for next time.
Good job, Shashi.
We love you, Papa.
Big voice.
We love you, Papa.
Let's keep going.
My Papa is very funny. My Papa is a good cook.
Big voice.
Papa has a lovely day. I hope Papa has a lovely birthday. I love my dolphins that you miss, and when you help build houses at Lego at either window. Building.
Even when you're the building inspector.
Big voice. You know the reasons that we love you. Those are some of them, and there are lots of more. I am happy to celebrate this happy time with you. We love you so much.
Happy birthday, Papa! And just to let you know that every single word was written by these three standing up here. It just helps with the typing. Okay, and if I can just get your attention for a little bit longer, I've got some not quite as cute grandchildren coming as well. Are you ready? Alright, quiet.
So we're not going to be that cute, but
Speak for yourself.
once upon a time in a land far, far away, there lived a very tall man with a very big moustache. This gentle giant had a very big family, and everywhere he went, people would ask, "Are you an Alexander?" This man was renowned throughout the land for his numerous grandchildren who he loved to read stories to. And every week he would go down to the store and get the story and read it to them at home. So today we just want to share some of our stories about Papa with you.
Once upon a time, my Papa built a series of very special buildings, one of which was my primary school, sometimes referred to as the best school in Melbourne, and the other was a synagogue. Every year we've made sure to visit this special shul, and 27 years later, when it came time for me to get married, a very special moment happened. My soon-to-be husband stood up on the bimah with my Papa in the shul my Papa built. The moral of the story is that Papa can certainly build some strong foundations for all of us.
Once upon a time, on the day of my bat mitzvah, Papa was delivering another one of his world-famous speeches and took the time to mention that all his grandchildren were special, but that I was special. The moral of the story is that Papa always knows how to make me and everyone else feel special.
In tribute to Papa, once upon a time, my ego was inflated, soon to be burst. All it took was an arm wrestle with my grandfather, 55 years my superior, to deflate that and keep me back in check. The moral of the story is that Papa always has a way of keeping our healthy egos in their place.
Once upon a time, my sister and I spent the day hanging out with Papa at work. This was regular occurrence during school holidays, and on the way back from a particularly long trip to Sunbury, Papa treated me to the largest, most disgusting milkshake I could buy. Although he was warned by my older sister that this might not have been the best idea, and ignored her repeated pleas to pull over, he insisted that we keep going, and drive straight through home from Sunbury. The long story short is that I was so sick of his car that in spite of repeated extensive cleaning and detailing sessions, he was forced to sell it. The moral of the story is that Papa always knows best.
Once upon a time, we had a cousin's sleepover at the Zeus Court headquarters. Papa looked after all of us in his inimitable Papa way by buying us all the pizza we could eat for the night. We each feasted on our bountiful delights and ultimately retired for bed. Until, that is, I arose from my slumber, sprinted to the bathroom and set off a chain of events that involved myself vomiting first, missing my target, and Papa choosing rather than to clean it to cover this with a towel. Natalie was next, following suit, without realising what was under the towel on which she knelt. She then returned to her shared bed with Jackie, with uncomfortably damp feet. Papa then fed me milk and sugar to fix my upset stomach. This was again a failed attempt. The moral of the story is that Papa really is not very good at dealing with vomit.
Once upon a time, Papa taught me a very important lesson. This lesson was about being rich. He taught me that if you worked very, very hard at it and invested very wisely, you would one day reap the dividends. The investment was in family and the dividends continue to pay out. The moral of the story is that Papa has ensured that we all have wealth management strategies in place for our future.
Once upon a time, there was a man whose moustache lasted through the decades. This moustache has become trendy, out of style, then in fashion, then unfashionable, then retro, then vintage, then creepy, and then back in fashion. The moral of the story is that Papa has always been ahead of his time.
Once upon a time, Papa visited a little land far, far away called Perth with his Princess Nana. Immediately when he arrived, he was willing to be present at all of little Hannah and Charlotte's school assemblies, netball training and games, little athletics trainings, athletic competitions, swimming trainings, and many more fun-filled activities for 5 and 7-year-olds. When it was time for Papa to depart, he had spent all his time watching his grandchildren. He had not had one moment to relax whatsoever. However, he said he thoroughly enjoyed himself and left Hannah and Charlotte smiling for weeks. The moral of the story is that Papa always knows how to put his grandchildren before himself.
Once upon a time, and in fact throughout all of our childhoods, we were treated to a famous Friday night Shabbos dinner catered by Nana and Papa. This tradition has become a huge part of all of our lives and continues to this very day. It is nothing short of amazing that Nana and Papa have managed to carry on such an important tradition, inclusive of all the salmon patties you can eat. To this day, I make sure to steal at least one salmon patty before the commencement of dinner, just to laugh at how anxious Papa gets about the prospect of running out and then still having enough for all of us to take home for Saturday mornings. The moral of the story is that Nana and Papa taught us the importance of family from a very young age and maintain this to this very day. They also taught us about over-catering.
Once upon a time, Papa was a man of varied skills, abilities and talents. He took great care to pass on some of his talents to his disciples. Some of these were very useful. Some of them were this. The moral of the story is that Papa is a man of many talents and only too happy to share them with us.
Once upon a time, there was a man who had a great love for sport in his community. His embellished tales of triumph were passed to his grandchildren, many of whom followed in his footsteps and represented Jewish sporting clubs throughout their adolescent years. From courtyard cricket matches where he refined the fielding technique of anyone over the age of 4, to always keeping tabs on our latest adventures, Papa's constant support of his grandchildren in all their endeavours did not go unnoticed. The moral of the story is that Papa's passions have been passed on through the generations and continue to shape the lives of his grandchildren.